You were told a simple story growing up. Work hard, save money, be responsible, and your future will be secure. Put cash in the bank, maybe earn a little interest, and over time your savings will grow. It sounds sensible. It sounds safe. But here's the unsettling question no one asks out loud. If saving money is the responsible thing to do, why does it feel like savers are always falling behind? Prices rise. Homes drift further out of reach. Retirement goals move like a mirage. And yet no one ever knocks on your door to take your money. There's no announcement saying your savings have been seized. No law titled, "We are confiscating your wealth." And that's the mystery. If nothing is being openly taken from you, why does your money buy less every single year? Tonight, we're going to uncover how this happens. Not by accident, not by incompetence, but by design. This is the story of the silent confiscation. At first glance, the system looks harmless. Modern economies are built on money that flows, grows, and circulates. Banks safeguard deposits. Central banks manage stability. Governments promise growth. The language is soothing. Price stability, economic stimulus, supporting employment. But behind that language is a mechanism most people never see because it doesn't feel like theft. It feels like time passing. To understand how this system quietly erodes savings, we have to go back long before inflation charts and policy meetings to the origins of modern money itself. For most of history, money was anchored to something tangible. Gold, silver, or other scarce commodities limited how much currency could exist. If a government wanted to spend more, it had to tax more or borrow honestly. Money was constrained by reality, so that constraint was inconvenient. Wars, welfare states, infrastructure projects, and political promises all required spending beyond what taxes could easily cover. The solution was gradual and carefully framed as progress. Paper money, central banking, and eventually money no longer tied to anything physical at all. This shift didn't happen overnight. It unfolded step by step. Gold backing was loosened, then partially removed, then finally abandoned. Each step was justified as temporary. Each step expanded flexibility. And each step made it easier to create money without directly taking it from anyone. This is the first cause in our story. When money creation becomes detached from real limits, its value must be absorbed somewhere. That somewhere is purchasing power. As central banks gained the power to create money, a new promise emerged. Inflation would be managed. It's not eliminated, managed. A small, steady rise in prices was presented as healthy. 2% inflation, we were told, was a sign of growth. But think carefully about what that means. If inflation is 2% every year, the value of your savings is guaranteed to fall, slowly, predictably, permanently. This is not a bug, it is the feature. Inflation incentivizes spending and borrowing, not saving. Money that sits still is punished. Money that moves through loans, investments, and speculation is rewarded. This is the rise of the system, an economy designed to flow forward by quietly draining the past. And for decades it seemed to work. Growth numbers climbed, markets expanded, asset owners prospered. But beneath the surface, a pressure was building, because inflation does not affect everyone equally. Here's the critical twist most people miss. Newly created money doesn't enter the economy evenly. It enters through specific channels: banks, financial markets, government spending. First recipients get to spend it before prices rise. The last recipients, wage earners, and savers face higher prices without higher purchasing power. This creates a hidden transfer of wealth. It's not from rich to poor, but from savers to borrowers, from workers to asset holders, from the future to the present. As long as growth outpaced inflation, the system could hide this effect. But eventually, reality intervened. That brings us to the breaking point. The breaking point arrives when debt grows faster than real productivity. When economies rely more on credit expansion than actual value creation. When central banks are forced to choose between stability and collapse, every major crisis reveals the same pattern. When markets falter, interest rates are cut, and that's not enough. Money is created. Quantitative easing, emergency liquidity, stimulus packages, these are not neutral actions. They are rescue operations, and who is rescued first? Financial institutions, asset markets, governments drowning in debt. Who pays the price? Savers. Interest rates fall below inflation. Savings accounts yield nearly nothing. Bonds lose real value. Cash becomes a wasting asset. This is the moment the silent confiscation becomes impossible to ignore if you know where to look. The fallout isn't dramatic. There's no collapse you can point to on a single day. Instead, it shows up as 1,000 quiet frustrations. You save for years, but housing prices outrun you. You build a retirement fund, but living costs rise faster. You follow every rule, yet feel like you're running in place. Meanwhile, those who own asset stocks, real estate, businesses see their wealth inflate alongside the money supply. The system hasn't failed everyone. It has chosen winners. This leads us to the so-called fixes. When the consequences become too visible, policymakers respond with solutions that treat symptoms, not causes. They raise rates slightly, then panic. They promise fiscal discipline, then spend more. They adjust inflation metrics, redefining what stable means. None of these fixes address the core issue, a monetary system that requires constant erosion of stored value to survive. In fact, many fixes make the problem worse. Higher inflation targets, larger deficits, more intervention. Each attempt to stabilize the system tightens the trap around savers. And then comes the justification. There is no alternative. Now let's bring this story into the present. Look at the data. Over decades, purchasing power has declined dramatically. A unit of currency today buys a fraction of what it once did. Wages lag behind asset inflation, savings rates rise, yet financial security feels further away. This is not unique to one country, it's global. Different currencies, same pattern. And history shows us something chilling. Systems built on silent erosion always repeat themselves. Eventually, trust breaks. People stop saving, they speculate, they gamble, they search for any escape from holding money. At that point, instability becomes the norm. So what does this mean for you? Here are 3 clear takeaways. First, understand that saving in currency alone is not neutral. It is an active bet against inflation, and historically, that bet loses. Second, recognize that inflation is not just an economic statistic. It is a mechanism of redistribution, quietly transferring value from those who store money to those who control its creation and first use. Third, question narratives that frame this as unavoidable. Systems are designed by choices, not fate. The warning is simple, but uncomfortable. A system that erodes savings by design eventually erodes trust by necessity. And when trust disappears, change comes fast and rarely gently. The open-ended question is this: what happens when an entire generation realizes that playing by the rules no longer works? If you want to understand the forces shaping your financial future beyond headlines and sound bites, stay curious, stay critical, and don't confuse silence with safety. If this video helped you see the system more clearly, consider liking, subscribing, and sharing it with someone who still believes saving alone is enough. Because the most dangerous systems are the ones that work quietly until they don't.